The sun burned over the Egyptian desert. The sand stretched like a golden sea, endless and silent. Omar wiped the sweat from his forehead as he studied the strange device in his hand. It was a signal reader, borrowed from a university lab. For days he had been following a faint sound it detected beneath the dunes. At first, he thought it was broken. But every time he came closer to the Valley of Forgotten Tombs, the signal grew stronger, like a beating heart under the earth. Omar was not a treasure hunter. He was an archaeologist who loved history more than wealth. His father had told him stories about the ancient kings who built monuments for eternity. Those tales stayed in his heart, but today something different was happening. This was not just another tomb waiting to be opened. This signal felt alive. Behind him, his small team worked with shovels and tools. There was Rami, his closest friend, who often complained about the heat but never left his side. There was Leela, a researcher from the university, who studied old hieroglyphs. And there were 3 workers from the nearby village who helped dig. All of them were tired, but they trusted Omar's instincts. He had led them to small discoveries before, but this time he was more certain than ever. The signal grew stronger by the hour. Omar pressed his ear to the ground and felt a faint vibration. It was not the wind or the shifting sand. Something was down there, waiting. "We are close," Omar said, his voice steady but filled with wonder. "Keep digging." The team worked under the burning sun, pushing sand aside until the edge of a stone wall appeared. It was old, far older than the nearby ruins. The stone was smooth, as if carved by hands that knew secrets lost to time. Strange carvings covered its surface, but they were not only Egyptian. Some of the patterns twisted in shapes that no scholar had ever seen. Leela crouched beside the wall and traced the markings with her hand. "These are mixed symbols," she whispered. "Some are Egyptian, but others are different. Almost like another language joined with ours." The villagers exchanged uneasy glances. One of them, an old man named Hassan, muttered under his breath, "This is the cursed tomb. My grandfather spoke of it. They say a pharaoh made a pact with the sky gods and locked their gifts away here. Anyone who enters will never leave." Rami laughed, trying to hide his nervousness. "Stories to frighten children," he said. "Gold does not curse. Gold shines, and I see enough gold on these walls to change all our lives." But Omar was not laughing. He studied the carvings, his eyes narrowing. He had read many legends, and Hassan's words struck something deep inside him. Ancient texts sometimes mentioned beings who came from the stars. Historians called it myth, but what if there was more to it? The sun dipped lower as the digging continued. At last, they uncovered the entrance. A narrow doorway stood hidden behind the sand, sealed with a slab of stone. The carvings grew thicker here, spirals and symbols glowing faintly in the last light of day. Omar felt his heart pound. The signal reader in his hand trembled with energy, its line jumping like wildfire. "This is it," Omar whispered. "The chamber is behind this door." Leela stepped back. "Are you sure we should open it? We don't know what lies inside." Omar looked at her. His eyes were filled with determination but also fear. "If we walk away now, we will never know. History will remain silent. But if we step forward, we might uncover the greatest secret of all." The villagers hesitated, whispering prayers under their breath. Even Rami, so eager for treasure, seemed unsettled. The desert wind rose, carrying grains of sand across their faces, as if the land itself tried to warn them. Still, Omar placed his hands on the stone slab. He felt the cold surface pulse, almost like a living thing. He pushed, and the stone shifted slightly, releasing a gust of stale air that smelled of dust and age. The sound echoed through the valley, low and haunting. The workers lit their torches, their flames flickering against the entrance. Omar stepped back, staring into the darkness beyond the narrow crack they had opened. Something was waiting in that darkness, something older than kings and richer than gold. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Omar said, "Tomorrow, at dawn, we enter. Tonight we rest, because what waits inside may change everything." The team agreed silently. They set up camp near the entrance, the golden carvings glimmering faintly under the moonlight. But none of them slept well. The desert was too quiet, and the signal reader still pulsed, beating like a heart beneath the sands. Omar lay awake, staring at the stars. The old stories of sky gods filled his thoughts. He wondered if the pharaohs had truly walked with beings not of this world. If the chamber was real, if the legends were true, then what they had found was not just a tomb. It was a secret buried for thousands of years, waiting for the right hands to uncover it. And Omar, for reasons he could not explain, felt that the chamber had been waiting for him. The morning sun rose over the desert, painting the sand in red and gold. Omar stood before the sealed doorway, his heart heavy with both fear and excitement. The carvings shimmered faintly in the sunlight, almost as if they were alive. Behind him, the camp was silent. Rami, Leela, and the villagers gathered around, their faces showing both eagerness and doubt. Omar placed his hand on the cold stone once more. The signal reader in his pocket pulsed stronger than ever. He looked at his team and spoke firmly. "Today we step inside. But remember, this chamber is not just a tomb. It is something greater. We must move with respect." Rami smirked but said nothing. His eyes gleamed at the thought of hidden treasures. Leela nodded with a serious face. She had spent the night studying the markings and was convinced they carried warnings. With a combined effort, they pushed the heavy slab aside. A sharp gust of air rushed out, colder than the desert night. It smelled of stone, dust, and something metallic. Torches flickered as they stepped forward into the passage. The narrow tunnel was lined with smooth walls covered in carvings. Some told familiar tales of pharaohs, gods, and battles. But others showed strange symbols that did not belong to earth. Curved lines and circles glowed faintly, as though the stone itself remembered a light from long ago. The deeper they walked, the stronger the hum in the air grew. The tunnel opened into a vast chamber, and the sight froze them in awe. The walls shone like pure gold, yet the surface shifted as if light flowed beneath it. Statues of ancient gods stood tall, but their eyes glimmered with a faint blue glow, not paint or stone. At the center of the chamber lay a massive door, far larger than the entrance they had opened. Its edges were lined with crystals that pulsed gently, like stars trapped in stone. "This is no tomb," Leela whispered, her torchlight reflecting on the golden walls. "This is something else." Omar's voice was calm but filled with wonder. "It is both. A pharaoh's chamber and something far beyond." They moved slowly through the hall, their footsteps echoing like whispers. On the ground lay treasures beyond imagination: crowns of gold, necklaces of strange metal, and scrolls sealed in glass tubes. Yet none of them seemed placed for burial. They looked more like offerings to something greater. As they approached the great door, the chamber began to tremble. The crystals flared with light, casting shifting patterns on the walls. The statues' eyes glowed brighter, and the golden surface of the walls rippled like water. The team froze, torches shaking in their hands. "Did we trigger something?" Rami asked, his voice cracking. Omar stepped closer to the door. The carvings across it lit up, forming a path of light that led straight to where he stood. His heart raced, but he felt no danger. Instead, a strange warmth filled him, as though the chamber itself recognized his presence. Leela clutched his arm. "It reacts to you." "Why only you?" Before Omar could answer, the door began to move. Slowly, with a sound like thunder rolling through stone, it slid open. A deep hum filled the chamber, vibrating through their bones. Beyond the door stretched a long hall lined with even greater wonders. The walls gleamed brighter than gold. Strange devices, half hidden under dust, hummed faintly as if waking from sleep. The team stepped through the doorway, their breaths caught in their throats. The air was cooler here, and filled with a faint metallic taste. On each side of the hall stood statues taller than men, their forms strange. Some resembled Egyptian gods, but their shapes were sharper, their bodies carved with patterns that glowed faintly like circuits. At the far end of the hall stood a massive figure. It looked like Anubis, the jackal-headed guardian of the dead, but this was no ordinary statue. Its body shimmered with metal, its eyes burned like twin flames, and its chest pulsed with blue light. The team froze. The figure stepped forward with heavy movements that shook the ground. It was not stone. It was alive, or something very close to it. Rami stumbled back, nearly dropping his torch. That thing moved. Tell me I am dreaming. The figure stopped before them, towering over Omar. Its voice echoed through the chamber, deep and powerful, yet strangely calm. The chosen has come. The seal is broken. The chamber awakens. Omar's mouth went dry. He wanted to step back, but something inside him held him steady. He felt the eyes of the figure pierce into him, as if weighing his soul. The villagers whispered prayers in fear. Leela clutched her torch so tightly her knuckles turned white. Rami hid his fear behind a nervous laugh. But Omar stood firm. His heart pounded, yet he knew he had been waiting for this moment without even realizing it. The figure bowed its head slightly, then spoke again. The heir of the Pharaoh carries the blood of promise. You must walk the path. But beware. Greed brings ruin. The chamber fell silent again. The only sound was the faint hum of the golden walls, alive with light. Omar realized that this was only the beginning. They had entered not just a tomb, but a place where history and something far beyond humanity had been hidden. The chamber was awake, and now it was watching them. The chamber was silent after the figure spoke. Omar felt every breath heavy in his chest as the giant guardian stood before them. Its golden body glimmered in the strange light, and its eyes glowed with an energy that was not fire yet burned brighter than any torch. The rest of the team stood frozen, unsure whether to flee or bow down. Rami broke the silence first. His voice shook though he tried to sound brave. It is only a machine. Old tricks of the pharaohs. We should take what we can and leave before it turns against us. The guardian's head turned slowly toward Rami, its glowing eyes locking on him. The air grew colder, and a low hum filled the hall. Omar quickly stepped forward, raising his hands in peace. Wait. Do not anger it. We must listen. The guardian's gaze returned to Omar. Its deep voice rumbled through the chamber. Blood of the chosen. You may pass. The others are shadows. They may remain if they follow the oath of respect. But if greed guides them, the chamber will not forgive. Layla's face grew pale. It knows what we feel. It can see inside us. Omar swallowed hard. He remembered the carvings on the walls outside. The pharaoh who built this place had not worked alone. These guardians were not statues. They were protectors created by something greater, perhaps by the sky beings of old stories. Gathering courage, Omar spoke. We seek only to understand. We will not harm this place. The guardian lowered its staff, a long spear-like rod glowing faintly. Its voice softened but still carried power. Then speak the words of the pharaoh. Only those who honor the past may walk deeper. Leela quickly knelt beside one of the walls. Her torch revealed a line of hieroglyphs. She whispered, "This is a prayer to the sun god, a vow of truth and loyalty. Maybe this is what it asks." Omar stepped forward, repeating the words slowly in the old tongue. His voice echoed through the golden hall. The guardian stood still, listening as though judging each word. When Omar finished, the chamber shook once more, but this time with warmth instead of threat. The guardian bowed its head. The path is open. With a heavy sound, the floor before them shifted. Golden tiles slid apart, revealing a staircase that descended into deeper darkness. A faint light glowed from below, pulling their eyes downward. Rami's greed flared in his expression. A hidden vault. There will be treasures beyond count. We must go. But Omar placed a hand on his arm. We go with respect. If you think only of gold, this place will turn against you. Rami pulled away with a scowl but said nothing. The group began their descent, torches lighting the steps. The hum of energy grew louder with every step. Strange carvings lined the walls, showing men standing beside tall figures with star-like eyes. The men offered gold and food while the tall beings placed hands upon their heads as if granting wisdom. Leela touched one of the carvings. This is not worship. It looks like an agreement. A trade between the pharaohs and the sky beings. Omar nodded. Perhaps this chamber was their meeting place. A vault for gifts from beyond. At the bottom of the stairs they entered another hall, even grander than the first. Rows of golden pillars lined the chamber, each covered with markings that glowed softly. In the center stood a massive sarcophagus, but unlike any they had ever seen. It was made of shining crystal, glowing from within. The guardian followed them, standing at the entrance as if to watch their every move. Its presence was both a warning and a protection. Omar approached the sarcophagus carefully. Inside lay not a body but a strange device shaped like a crown, floating above the crystal surface. Lines of light ran through it, pulsing like veins of fire. Layla's eyes widened. This is no burial treasure. This is technology. Rami's hand twitched toward it, but the guardian's voice boomed at once. Touch what is not yours, and the chamber will judge. Rami froze, his face twisting with frustration. Omar turned to the guardian. What is this place truly? The guardian's eyes glowed brighter. A promise made by the pharaoh and the sky king. A union of two worlds. Here lies power greater than gold, meant only for the worthy. You are tested. Only one may carry the choice forward. The words filled Omar with both pride and fear. He had been chosen, yet he did not know why. He was only a man of history, not a king, not a warrior. But deep inside, he felt that the chamber had waited for him. The others looked at him, unsure of what would come next. Rami's hunger for riches clashed with fear. Layla's eyes were filled with curiosity but also trust in Omar. The villagers whispered among themselves, still shaken by the guardian's power. Omar placed his hand over his heart and spoke calmly. I will not take what does not belong to me. But I will learn what you wish to show. If I am to carry this choice, then let me prove my worth. The guardian stepped forward, lowering its staff. The chamber glowed brighter, and the crown within the crystal pulsed with stronger light. The trial begins, the guardian said. And the chamber trembled as if the very desert above was holding its breath. The hall trembled as the guardian's words faded. The light from the crystal sarcophagus spread across the golden pillars, casting shifting patterns on the walls. Omar stood before the glowing crown, his heart racing. He felt the weight of history pressing down on him. This was not treasure made by human hands. It was something older, something not of this world. Leela whispered, almost afraid to break the silence. It is alive. Look at how it pulses. This crown is not gold. It is something beyond. The villagers stood back, too fearful to move closer. Rami's eyes burned with hunger as he stared at the crown, but the guardian's presence kept him from acting. The giant figure still stood at the entrance, its glowing eyes fixed on them, its staff humming faintly as though waiting for the next step. Omar took a deep breath and moved closer to the sarcophagus. As he reached out, not to touch but to study, the crystal surface shimmered and opened by itself. The crown floated higher, spinning slowly, glowing brighter. Lines of light spread across the chamber like veins of fire. Suddenly the walls lit up with moving images. They were not drawings, but visions made of light. The team gasped as the history of the chamber came alive before their eyes. They saw a vast sky filled with stars. A great ship descended, larger than any pyramid, glowing with blue fire. Tall beings stepped from it, their forms shining, their eyes bright like suns. They stood before a pharaoh and his people, and though the language was strange, the meaning was clear. It was a meeting, not of gods and men, but of visitors and rulers. Leela whispered, her voice trembling. This is proof. The old stories were true. The pharaohs did not only rule with human power. They had help from beyond the stars. The vision shifted. It showed the pharaoh standing beside one of the tall beings. Together they raised their hands, and golden energy spread over the land. Crops grew, rivers flowed with strength, and great monuments rose as if by unseen hands. The people cheered, believing their king to be divine. But the truth was here before their eyes. Rami stepped forward, his greed almost breaking through his fear. If they had such power, then this crown must control it. With it we could command the world. The guardian's voice thundered, shaking the pillars. Greed is the chain that destroys. The crown is not for wealth. It is for wisdom and protection. Those who seek gold will find only ruin. Rami stepped back, silenced by the force of the words. Omar's eyes stayed fixed on the vision. The story was not finished. He saw the pharaoh ordering the chamber to be built, carving symbols that bound human loyalty with alien promise. The chamber became a vault, a meeting place, and a safeguard. The crown was left behind as a key, but only for one worthy to bear the burden. Then the vision grew darker. It showed war. Other men, hungry for power, tried to steal the crown. The guardians rose, statues of Anubis and Horus moving with blazing eyes, crushing those who defiled the place. Blood stained the desert, and the pharaoh sealed the chamber, vowing that only a true heir in spirit would open it again. When the vision faded, the chamber grew silent once more. The crown floated gently, its glow softer but steady. Layla's face was pale. So many myths and tales. All of them were fragments of this truth. We always believed the gods were symbols. But they were real. Visitors from the stars. They gave pharaohs the power to shape history. Omar felt a deep weight in his heart. He was not a pharaoh. He had no crown, no throne, no armies. Yet the guardian had spoken as if he carried the blood of promise. Perhaps it was not blood at all. Perhaps it was his respect for history, his will to protect rather than steal, that made him worthy. He looked at the guardian. Why me, why now? The great figure stepped forward, each movement echoing like thunder. Because the world stands on the edge again. Greed rises in men, and wars burn across the earth. The chamber waited for one who values wisdom over riches. You are chosen not by blood, but by spirit. The words struck deep. Omar thought of the world outside. Nations fought over oil, land, and power. What would they do if they discovered a treasure like this crown, a source of energy greater than gold and fuel combined? They would destroy each other. Rami's eyes narrowed. He saw the same thought but twisted it. Then this is even more reason to use it. With this power we could control the wars. We could be rulers above rulers. Leela shook her head firmly. Or we could destroy ourselves faster. This is not meant for greed. Omar felt the chamber watching him, the crown pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. The truth was clear. This was not a gift of wealth. It was a test of humanity itself. The pharaohs had hidden it because they knew men were not ready. He turned to his team. The chamber shows us the truth. This is not gold beyond imagination. It is knowledge beyond measure. And knowledge is heavier than gold. The guardian raised its staff, striking the ground. Light rippled across the chamber. The trial continues. The heir must decide the fate of the crown. Wisdom or ruin. The chamber awaits your choice. The air grew heavy, and the golden walls shimmered like fire. Omar's heart pounded. He now carried a burden greater than anything he had ever dreamed. The chamber glowed with golden light as the guardian's staff struck the floor. The crown hovered in the air above the crystal sarcophagus, pulsing softly like a living heart. Omar stood frozen, his mind heavy with the responsibility placed upon him. He felt as though the weight of history had settled on his shoulders. Leela stayed close to him, her torch flickering in her trembling hand. Her eyes were filled with awe but also fear. She whispered, "This is bigger than us. Bigger than any treasure. Omar, the choice is real. The crown can shape the future." The villagers stood back, murmuring prayers, afraid to even look directly at the glowing artifact. They understood that this place was not meant for ordinary men. Only Rami's eyes burned with desire. His hands twitched as though he fought to stop himself from reaching for the crown. He finally spoke, his voice tight. "Omar, listen to me. We cannot waste this chance. With that crown, we can change everything. Think of the riches, the power. We could live as kings." Omar turned to him sharply. "This is not gold to fill your pockets, Rami. This is a gift of knowledge, a power too dangerous for greed. If you try to take it, the chamber will destroy us all." But Rami's hunger had grown beyond reason. He glared at Omar with eyes filled not with friendship but envy. "You were never a king, Omar. You dig in the dirt while I dream of greatness. That crown is meant for me." Before Omar could stop him, Rami lunged forward. His fingers reached for the glowing crown. The chamber reacted instantly. The golden pillars flared with blinding light. The guardian roared, its voice shaking the ground. "Greed defiles the oath. Judgment falls." A shock wave burst from the crown, throwing Rami across the floor. He crashed into a pillar, gasping in pain but still alive. The villagers screamed and fled toward the staircase, but the path sealed itself with slabs of golden stone. They were trapped. Statues along the walls began to move. Figures shaped like Horus and Anubis stepped down from their pedestals, their eyes glowing red with fury. They marched forward with heavy steps, their stone and metal bodies alive with ancient power. Leela clutched Omar's arm. "The guardians are awake. They will kill us all." Omar's heart raced. He stood between Rami's greed and the wrath of the chamber. He raised his voice, shouting over the roar. "Wait. Stop. He is only one man. Do not destroy us all for his mistake." The largest guardian, the one who had spoken before, lifted its staff. Its glowing eyes focused on Omar. "Then prove your words. Speak the vow again. Bind your spirit to the promise, or fall with the rest." Omar's throat went dry. He remembered the prayer carved into the wall, the vow to honor the past and guard the secrets of the Pharaoh. With steady breath he repeated the words, his voice echoing across the chamber. He spoke not only the ancient language but also from his heart. He promised to protect the chamber, to value wisdom above gold, to carry the burden with respect. The glowing guardians slowed their advance. Their red eyes softened back to blue. The ground stopped shaking. The largest guardian lowered its staff, the thunder fading from the chamber. But Rami was not finished. Crawling to his feet, he spat words of anger. "You think you are chosen, Omar, but you are a fool. This is power beyond kings. I will not leave without it." He pulled a dagger from his belt, a simple tool meant for cutting ropes. With a desperate cry he charged again toward the crown. This time Omar moved faster. He stepped in front of Rami and pushed him back. The dagger clattered to the floor. "Enough. Do you not see what this place is telling us? You cannot steal the crown. It will destroy you." Rami's face twisted in rage, but before he could strike again, the guardian raised its staff once more. A beam of golden light shot across the floor, striking the dagger. The blade melted into nothing, leaving only smoke. The guardian's voice thundered. "Greed has no place here. The crown rejects him." Rami fell to his knees, trembling. For the first time, true fear filled his eyes. He looked at Omar, his voice breaking. Then what is left for me? Omar looked at him with sorrow. You are my friend, Rami, but this is not our choice to make. This is a test. We are only guests here. Leela stepped forward. Her voice was gentle but firm. We must protect the secret. If the world learns of this crown, they will fight and kill for it. The Pharaoh sealed it for a reason. And now the chamber has chosen Omar to carry that burden. The guardian nodded slowly. The trial continues. But remember, chosen one. The greed of men will return. The crown must remain hidden until the world is ready. The chamber grew calm once more. The crown still hovered above the crystal, glowing softly like a star waiting to be claimed. But now Omar knew the truth. This was no prize of gold. It was a key to something far greater, and it carried both promise and danger. As he looked at Rami, broken and silent, Omar understood what greed could do. And as he looked at the crown, he understood what wisdom must choose. The silence in the golden chamber felt heavy after the storm of light and anger had passed. Omar stood still, his chest rising and falling with slow breaths. The crown hovered above the crystal, glowing softly like a lantern in the dark. The guardians had calmed, yet their glowing eyes still watched closely. Leela moved beside him, her face pale but calm. Omar, she whispered, the crown has not chosen you yet. There is more to come. Do you feel it? Omar nodded. His heart told him that the guardian's words were true. The vow he had spoken had stopped the destruction, but it was only the beginning. The trial was not over. The largest guardian stepped forward again, its golden staff glowing with ancient power. Its deep voice echoed in the chamber. The crown does not rest in the hands of the unworthy. It is not for greed, nor for fear. It is for one who carries the spirit of the Pharaoh, not by blood, but by heart. Rami, still on his knees, looked up in disbelief. Spirit of the Pharaoh, what does that even mean? He was a king, a ruler of armies. Omar is no king. He is just a man who digs in the sand. The guardian's glowing eyes shifted toward Rami. A ruler is not born by blood alone. A true heir is one who protects, who chooses wisdom over power, who bears the burden of his people. Omar has spoken the vow. Yet words are air. The trial will test his heart. The golden floor shifted beneath their feet. Circles of light spread outward, forming paths that led to different sections of the chamber. Walls moved like sliding stone, opening new halls filled with shadows. Leela gasped. The chamber is changing again. Omar, this is the trial. Omar swallowed hard but stood straight. He felt fear, but he also felt a strange calm inside. He whispered to himself, if this is my test, I must face it. The guardian lifted its staff toward him. 3 gates stand before you. One holds truth, one holds deception, and one holds despair. Only through truth will the crown bow to you. Choose wisely. The golden floor revealed 3 glowing doorways. Each shimmered like sunlight on water, but none looked different from the others. The villagers murmured in fear, but no one dared to step forward. Rami's eyes narrowed. It is a trick. None of these doors lead to treasure. They are playing with us. Leela touched Omar's arm. Do not listen to him. Remember what the guardian said. This is about wisdom, not treasure. Omar closed his eyes for a moment. He remembered the vow he had spoken, the carvings on the wall, and the lessons of the old stories. Pharaohs were not tested by what they wanted, but by what they were willing to give up. He walked toward the middle gate. This one. The villagers gasped. Rami sneered. You choose without knowing? You will lead us to death. Omar placed his hand on the glowing surface. Light spread from his touch, and the gate opened. Beyond lay a hallway of endless mirrors, each reflecting his image. Some mirrors showed him as he was now, dusty and tired. Others showed him as a king, crowned and robed in gold. Still others showed him broken, lying in the dirt, forgotten. Leela stepped beside him. "What is this place?" The guardian's voice followed them inside. "This is the trial of self. The heir must face his reflection and not be blinded by pride, nor crushed by fear." As Omar walked deeper, the mirrors whispered. One reflection spoke, "Take the crown. You deserve it. No one else is worthy." Another reflection hissed, "You will fail. You are nothing but a poor digger. Leave before you shame yourself." Omar pressed forward, though the voices clawed at his heart. His chest ached with doubt. He stopped before one mirror that showed him wearing the crown, ruling as Pharaoh. Gold covered his throne, and thousands bowed before him. The reflection smiled with power. Rami, who had followed despite the warnings, cried out, "Yes. That is what you must take. Look, Omar. You were meant for this." He pointed wildly at the golden image. "That is the future waiting for you." Omar shook his head. "No. That is not the test. The crown is not for glory. It is for duty." He turned from the mirror and kept walking. The reflections grew darker. One showed him holding the crown while his village burned. Another showed him alone, betrayed, the crown turned to ash in his hands. His steps slowed. Fear pressed heavy on him. His hands shook. "What if I am not worthy?" he whispered. Leela placed her hand on his shoulder. "You are worthy because you care. You do not seek power. You seek to protect. That is what makes you different." Omar breathed deeply. Her words gave him strength. He pressed forward until the mirrors ended, and before him stood a final gate of light. The guardian's voice thundered once more. "The first trial is complete. You have turned from pride, and you have not surrendered to despair. 2 gates remain, and with them, the truth of your heart will be revealed." The mirrors behind him vanished, and the golden chamber returned. The crown still hovered above the crystal, glowing brighter now, as if waiting. Omar stood tall, though his body trembled. He had passed one test, but he knew the hardest trials were still ahead. The chamber pulsed with golden light, as though the crown itself was alive and waiting. Omar stood with sweat on his forehead, his heart beating like a drum. He had passed the first trial, but 2 more still remained. The guardians stood like statues, yet their glowing eyes followed his every step. Leela stayed close by his side, her presence steadying him. The villagers kept their distance, whispering among themselves. Some prayed for Omar's success, while others feared that failure would bring ruin upon them all. The guardian's deep voice echoed again. 2 gates remain. One holds wisdom, one holds sacrifice. Through them lies the true weight of the crown. The floor shimmered and formed 2 more glowing doorways. One shined with soft golden light, warm and calm. The other glowed with deep red fire, flickering as if it led into a furnace. Rami's voice broke the silence. "Choose the golden one, Omar. Look at it. It is safe. That is the way of wisdom." His eyes, however, glimmered with greed. Omar studied the doors. The golden glow looked inviting, yet he remembered the words of the guardian. Truth was not always easy, and wisdom did not always look safe. He thought of the mirrors, of pride and fear, and how simple answers had tried to mislead him. He turned to Leela. "Which door do you think is the right one?" Leela hesitated. "I do not know. But I do know this: the fire burns, and wisdom often comes through pain. If you seek only safety, you may not find truth." Omar nodded. Her words felt right. He took a deep breath and stepped toward the red doorway of fire. Rami shouted behind him, "You fool! That door will kill you." But Omar did not turn back. He placed his hand on the red light. Heat rushed over his skin, but it did not burn. The doorway opened, and beyond it stretched a vast hall filled with flames. In the center stood a stone pedestal, and on it lay a golden scale. The guardian's voice filled the air. This is the trial of sacrifice. Every pharaoh was weighed, not by gold, but by what he was willing to give for his people. Place your offering upon the scale, and the fire will judge. Omar's stomach tightened. He had no treasure to give, no gold, no jewel. The villagers carried some relics from the ruins, but he had nothing of value. Then he understood the trial was not about riches. It was about what truly mattered to him. Slowly, he removed the small leather pouch from his belt. Inside was the carved wooden charm his mother had given him before she died. It was the last memory he had of her, the most precious thing he owned. His hands shook as he placed it on the golden scale. The flames roared higher, as if testing his resolve. For a moment, he thought the charm would burn to ash. But then the fire calmed, and the scale glowed bright. The guardian's voice thundered. You have given what was dearest to you. The fire accepts your sacrifice. The second trial is complete. Omar let out a long breath, though his heart ached at the loss. He stepped back, and the doorway of fire closed behind him. The chamber returned, brighter than before. The crown now glowed with silver light, as though honoring his choice. Leela smiled softly. You did it. You gave up something only love could give. That is why the fire accepted you. But Rami's face twisted with anger. You are a fool. You gave away treasure for nothing. What good is a crown without riches? The guardian turned its glowing eyes toward Rami. Greed blinds you. You are not the heir. The final trial belongs to Omar alone. The ground rumbled, and the third doorway opened. This one was not golden or red. It was black, filled with shadows deeper than night. Cold air rushed out of it, chilling the chamber. Leela shivered. What is this one? The guardian raised its staff. The final gate is the trial of truth. Beyond lies no illusion, no treasure, no fire. Only the truth of the heart. Enter, and the crown will choose. Omar's hands trembled, but he stepped forward. He looked back once at Leela, who whispered, You are not alone. He nodded, then walked into the darkness. Inside, there was no floor, no wall, no sky. Only endless black. Then a voice whispered in the dark. It was his own voice. Why do you seek the crown, Omar? Do you desire power? Do you crave glory? Or do you hide from your own weakness? Omar closed his eyes. I do not seek power. I do not crave glory. I am weak, yes, but I do not wish to hide. I only wish to protect my people, to keep the world from being broken by greed and fear. The darkness shifted, and before him appeared an image of his village. Children laughed, elders smiled, and people lived in peace. Then the image shattered, replaced by fire, war, and chains. The voice spoke again. If you fail, all may suffer. Are you willing to carry that burden? Omar's chest ached, but he spoke firmly. Yes. I will carry it. Even if it breaks me, I will carry it. Light burst through the darkness. The black walls melted away, and Omar stood once more in the golden chamber. The crown lifted from the crystal and floated toward him, glowing brighter than ever. The guardian's voice thundered one last time. You have passed the 3 trials. Pride did not blind you. Fear did not crush you. Love guided your sacrifice. Truth gave you strength. The crown has chosen. The crown settled gently upon Omar's head. Golden light filled the chamber, washing over the villagers, over Leela, even over Rami. Layla's eyes shone with tears. Omar, you are the Pharaoh. Omar bowed his head, not in pride, but in humility. If I am Pharaoh, then I am not a ruler of power, but a servant of the people. That is the promise I will keep. The guardians lowered their staffs and vanished into the walls, leaving only silence and the glow of the chamber. The lost pharaoh's crown was no longer lost. It had found its heir.